The wrestling world just exploded with drama that nobody saw coming, and what happened backstage between Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins has fans absolutely losing their minds right now. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it now, because you're not going to want to miss a single update on this developing story that's tearing through the WWE universe like a wildfire. Reports are flooding in from backstage sources at the latest WWE event, and what went down between these two superstars is beyond anything anyone could have predicted. Becky Lynch, known as the Man, completely lost it on Seth Rollins in what witnesses are describing as one of the most intense confrontations ever seen behind the curtain. Multiple people who were present say the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and the shouting could be heard echoing through the corridors. This wasn't just a disagreement between two professionals. This was personal, raw, and absolutely explosive. The catalyst for this entire situation allegedly involves divorce papers that have suddenly surfaced, sending shockwaves through both the wrestling community and their massive fan base. Sources close to the situation claim that Seth was blindsided by legal documents being served, and when Becky confronted him about leaked information regarding their private matters, things escalated faster than anyone could have imagined. The couple who seemed to have it all, who built their relationship in the public eye and welcomed their daughter together, now find themselves at the center of what could be the most talked about breakup in wrestling history. What makes this situation even more complex is the professional dynamic these two share. Both are top-tier performers in WWE, both have massive fan followings, and both have careers that require them to potentially cross paths at events, backstage areas, and possibly even in storylines. The logistics alone of navigating a split this contentious while maintaining their professional obligations is mind-boggling. Witnesses say Becky was visibly shaking with emotion during the confrontation, her voice carrying a mixture of anger, hurt, and frustration that made everyone within earshot incredibly uncomfortable. Seth, according to those same sources, appeared stunned initially but quickly became defensive as the exchange intensified. The back and forth allegedly touched on issues of trust, communication breakdowns, and disagreements about how their personal life was being handled in relation to their public personas. One insider mentioned that Becky brought up specific instances where she felt disrespected and blindsided, suggesting that whatever led to the divorce papers being filed had been building for quite some time beneath the surface. The timing of this entire situation is particularly striking given where both stars are in their respective careers right now. Becky Lynch has been on an absolute tear, re-establishing herself as one of the most dominant forces in the women's division and cementing her legacy as one of the all-time greats. Seth Rollins has been involved in high-profile storylines and continues to be positioned as a main event-level talent. For their personal lives to implode so publicly at this moment adds layers of complication that neither probably wanted to deal with while trying to maintain their focus and deliver for the fans who look up to them. People backstage are reportedly choosing sides, which is creating an uncomfortable atmosphere in an environment where teamwork and professionalism are supposed to reign supreme. Some wrestlers have expressed support for Becky, praising her strength and understanding her need to stand up for herself in what she clearly views as an unjust situation. Others have defended Seth, suggesting that there are always two sides to every story and that rushing to judgment without knowing all the details is unfair to everyone involved. This division among the roster is adding fuel to an already raging fire and making an already difficult situation even more complicated for everyone trying to navigate it. What's particularly interesting is how this situation mirrors and yet differs from other high-profile wrestling couples who have split in the past. The wrestling business has a long history of relationships that flourished under the bright lights only to crumble under the pressure of constant travel, intense schedules, and the blurred lines between character and reality. But this situation feels different somehow, more raw and unfiltered, perhaps because of how much both Becky and Seth have shared about their relationship with fans over the years. They weren't just colleagues who got together. They were a power couple who openly celebrated their love, their growing family, and their shared passion for the business. The legal implications of divorce proceedings involving two high-earning WWE superstars are substantial. There are likely complex negotiations around assets, custody arrangements for their daughter, and potentially even agreements about how they'll handle their public images moving forward. Wrestling fans have already begun speculating about whether this could somehow be worked into storylines, though many find that notion distasteful given the very real pain and disruption this is causing in actual lives. WWE management is supposedly monitoring the situation closely, concerned about how it might affect programming and whether special accommodations will need to be made to keep the former couple separated at events. Becky's supporters have been quick to flood social media with messages of encouragement, praising her for standing her ground and refusing to be pushed around regardless of the personal cost. The hashtags and trending topics have been relentless, with fans dissecting every piece of information that emerges and trying to piece together exactly what happened to cause such a dramatic fracture. Some are pointing to past interviews and public appearances, looking for signs they might have missed that trouble was brewing beneath the picture-perfect exterior the couple presented to the world. Meanwhile, Seth's fanbase has also rallied, though perhaps with slightly less fervor given the optics of the situation as it's currently being reported. His supporters argue that everyone deserves privacy during difficult personal times and that the court of public opinion shouldn't be passing judgment based on incomplete information and second-hand accounts of a private moment. They point out his dedication as a father and his professionalism throughout his career as evidence that whatever is happening, it's more nuanced than simple villain and victim narratives would suggest. The backstage confrontation itself, based on witness accounts, lasted somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, which in the moment probably felt like an eternity to everyone involved. Production staff, other wrestlers, and various personnel reportedly cleared out of the immediate area to give them space, though the volume of the exchange made it impossible not to overhear at least portions of what was being said. Some described seeing Becky pointing her finger emphatically while speaking, her body language radiating intensity and determination. Seth is said to have run his hands through his hair repeatedly, a gesture those who know him recognize as a sign of stress and frustration. One particularly telling detail that has emerged is that this wasn't a spontaneous explosion but rather appeared to be the result of something specific that happened earlier that day or perhaps even in the days leading up to the event. Multiple sources suggest that Becky had been informed of something, possibly through legal channels or through mutual acquaintances, that prompted her to seek Seth out and demand answers immediately rather than waiting for a more private setting. The urgency with which she approached the situation speaks to how significant whatever triggered this must have been. The aftermath of the confrontation has left both stars in difficult positions professionally and personally. They still have contractual obligations to fulfill, appearances to make, and matches to perform. The show must go on, as they say in this business, but doing so while processing intense personal turmoil and knowing that thousands of people are watching and speculating about your private life creates a unique kind of pressure that most people will never have to experience. The strength required to compartmentalize that pain and still deliver quality performances is something that speaks to the toughness inherent in professional wrestling, but it doesn't make it any less painful or challenging. Industry veterans have begun weighing in with their perspectives, some sharing their own experiences with relationship difficulties while working in wrestling. The common thread in many of these stories is that the business itself, as much as performers might love it, puts enormous strain on personal relationships. The travel schedule alone means weeks and months away from home. The physical demands mean dealing with injuries, pain, and recovery that affects mood and energy levels. The creative frustrations that come with not always having control over your character or direction can spill over into personal life. Add in the egos, the politics, and the constant pressure to perform, and it's almost surprising that any wrestling relationships survive long term. What happens next is anybody's guess at this point. Will WWE try to keep them completely separated going forward, or will they trust both to remain professional when paths cross? Will this affect their positions on the card or their involvement in major storylines? Will one or both request time off to deal with personal matters? These are questions that fans and management alike are grappling with as this situation continues to unfold. The human element here, the reality that these are real people dealing with real pain regardless of their larger-than-life personas, sometimes gets lost in the spectacle and speculation. The divorce papers themselves, while the specifics haven't been made public, represent the formal dissolution of what many fans viewed as a fairy-tale relationship. From their early interactions to going public with their romance, from getting engaged to getting married, from welcoming their daughter to supporting each other's career milestones, Becky and Seth seem to embody the idea that you could have it all in this crazy business. The revelation that behind the scenes things had deteriorated to the point of legal action has left many fans feeling almost betrayed, as if something they believed in has been shattered. There's also discussion about how this might impact their daughter and the custody arrangements that will need to be worked out. Both Becky and Seth have spoken lovingly about parenthood in interviews, expressing how becoming parents changed their perspectives and priorities. Ensuring that their daughter is protected from the ugliness of a contentious split while still maintaining meaningful relationships with both parents will require maturity, compromise, and putting her needs above any lingering resentment or anger. Wrestling fans, many of whom are parents themselves, have expressed hope that regardless of what happens between the adults, the child's well-being remains the top priority. The wrestling community has always been a tight-knit group despite its competitive nature, and many are hoping that mutual friends and respected veterans will be able to help mediate or at least provide support to both Becky and Seth during this incredibly difficult time. Having people who understand the unique pressures of the business and can offer perspective without taking sides could prove invaluable as both navigate this new reality. The emotional toll of a public breakup compounded by the professional complications makes having a support system absolutely essential. As this story continues to develop, one thing is certain. The fallout from that backstage confrontation will be felt for a long time to come. Whether this leads to an eventual amicable resolution or further deterioration of their relationship remains to be seen. What's undeniable is that two of wrestling's biggest stars are going through something intensely painful and doing so under the microscope of public scrutiny. The coming weeks and months will reveal more about what truly happened, what the future holds for both of them individually, and how WWE will handle having two top performers navigating such personal turmoil while still being expected to entertain millions. The passion that made that backstage confrontation so explosive is the same passion that has made both Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins so successful in their careers. They care deeply, they feel intensely, and they commit fully to everything they do. Right now that intensity is directed at each other in ways that are painful and destructive, but perhaps eventually that same passion can be channeled toward healing, co-parenting effectively, and finding peace with whatever their new normal becomes. Fans who have supported them throughout their careers can only hope that both find happiness moving forward, even if that means finding it separately rather than together. Make sure you stay subscribed to catch every update as this story continues to unfold, because something tells me we're only seeing the beginning of what promises to be a long and complicated journey for everyone involved.